Welcome to everyone, especially welcome to Tanya online. We already have welcomed Diane Smith in our workshop. Once again, welcome. And we quickly discussed this. It's in continuation almost from the workshop, but we're now going into our joint committee meeting of the Coastal Hazard Strategy. We already opened with a karakia. But once again, welcome to you all. First of all, we've got some health and safety things that need to run through. So with a earthquake, if it's long and low, we'll go out and follow Peter here. Our staff knows exactly where to run to if it's in the case of a tsunami. Otherwise, we'll drop and stay underneath our tables. Also, emergency exits are there and indicated over there, and the toilets are behind the kitchen area as indicated. Okay, are there any apologies, Peter? Charles Lambert is an apology.
And Tanya Kerr.
Tanya Kerr. Okay. Tanya Kerr is an alternate?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Can I have a move that we accept these apologies? Zan? Keith? All in favour, say aye.
Aye.
No? Ayes have it. Okay. Are there any conflict of interest declarations? None? Great. Okay, then we go to the confirmation of the minutes of the committee meeting held on the 10th of November. You should have all read them. No alterations to be made. As you can see, I wasn't present there. Thank you for sharing that, Councillor Brown. Okay, can I have a move to accept these minutes? Owen and Councillor Brown. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
No, ayes have it. Thank you. And thank you for compiling those. Okay, and then we go to item 4. And this is related to Anne Redstone. Okay, you have got the paper in front of you. And before we go through the paper, I first of all would like to acknowledge you. I understand since 2009 you've been involved in coastal hazards, so to speak, erosion. 40 years ago you moved with your young family to Hamoana on a nice coastal property, and then you realised that you didn't know that when you moved there that there actually were some erosion issues.
Can I just correct you a tad on
You
that?
can, anytime you can correct me.
At that point it was about pollution into the sea, so I started the Clean Sea Coalition back then 40 years ago.
Okay.
That was my first bit into politics.
Okay, very good. But what really kicked it off for you was when you actually met with council staff, and it was a matter of pay up big for groins or move out. And you got a bit angry at that point. You created a flyer, went from letterbox to letterbox. You called a community meeting, and from that, Walk on Water was created. And you were the first chair of that organisation that actually has been an amazing advocate for the community there in this space, and maybe was actually the underpinning push from community that we as a council have now worked together, councils I should say, have worked together on a draft strategy. So that's been really great. So in 2016 you became an elected member, and you stood down as a chair, and so since that time you also have been a member of this committee, the joint committee, and have represented the ratepayers on behalf of Hastings District Council. But I must admit, I think of all the people going through the notes about you and on you, is that I can't think of anyone who spent as much time on coastal hazards. And I think the community should be really thankful for the work that you've done. So it's really great. And also what I must say, in the time that I've met you, is that you never raised your voice. you were quietly, but you made your point, you know, and and you never came over as a politician. You came over as a ratepayer. Somebody, although you were a councillor, you came over as a ratepayer, and that's how people saw you, which was really great. And you can see the work that we've done, the work that we now have compiled, and still wrecking our brain over of who's going to fund this, you know, who's going to pay for it. These are big decisions, but it all started almost with that flyer going around the Hamoana district. So once again, it's been great to have worked with you, and you've done fantastic work. But you already have agreed just about 10 minutes ago that this will not be your last. You will continue to keep an eye out and make sure that Alwyn and Malcolm will continue to fly the flag very high for the ratepayers in the Hasty district.
Thank you, Sheriff. It's been an absolute honour and a privilege to have worked with everybody on this, past and present, on this committee. And I think we're finally getting traction, which is fantastic. It's taken 9 years. So there is somebody who's been on the committee longer than I have, and that's Tangoio. She's probably the only one, I think, that's been on it right from the inception of the committee. But yeah, thank you very much for the accolade and the honour today. I'm really impressed, and yes, I'll be watching.
Okay, yeah, and keep our feet to the flame, you know, very important. And Tanya Kerr will, although it's maybe a longer period that she's been on the committee, she will concur that you've spent far more time on all of this. You know, every community meeting, every joint committee meeting, you were there. You know, you're always there, either in the background or in the foreground, or. And it's been really great. And I think those who've actually, like Chris and Simon, Peter Bevan before me, they have greatly benefited from your input. So it's been really great. You encouraged the community members to be part of the development of the strategy as well. So it's been really fantastic. So thank you very much. And I hope that you still enjoy a long retirement. We really wish you that. Yeah,
Thank you.
Great, excellent. Okay, good. We'll go to pay. If anyone else would like to speak, I think it's appropriate if you would like to. I know we're in a bit of a time frame, but go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, can I just say, I've worked with Anne ever since she's been on council. She's been an outstanding councillor. She's always been passionate about the environment and the coast in particular, but you're also very well grounded in everything else you've done. You've got yourself involved in a wide range of council activities, and you always went way beyond the call of duty. If there was a meeting, Anne was there. If there was a vacancy, Anne put her hand up. And your community knew that they could always rely on you to get something done. And that's what a council is all about, being reliable for the community. And I know the coastal community is not an easy community to work with, but they held you in high esteem. So, Anne, on behalf of all of us, thank you very much.
Great, excellent. Well, on that note, I would like to move that the Clifton to Tangoio Coastal Hazard Strategy Joint Committee recognises and thanks Anne Redstone for her contribution as a member of the Joint Committee. Have we got a mover? Alwyn and Malcolm. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? I think it's unanimous. And hopefully you're staying after for a bit of lunch with us.
So, well, thank you very much.
That'd be really great. Thank you. Okay. Okay, then we'll move to information. Simon, item number 5 on page 5.
Thank you, Chair. So the usual update from me, a couple of things just to highlight. The first is in relation to the dashboard. No changes this period, but I do want to highlight the Mātauranga Māori work stream for particularly mention here. That's still a little bit under stress given difficulty with finding capacity to meet and engage. So what I'd like to do is ask interested joint committee members to have a separate discussion about how we might make better progress on that. Particularly with PSGEs, but also broader hapu entities. So I guess a request from staff for a side meeting to discuss how we might make better progress on that for any that are willing to support that conversation. Not sure how best to organise that separate hui, but maybe with Peter's support we could arrange it offline. Thank you. Next one to note, strategy timeline. So there's been a overdue request, I'll acknowledge that, to produce a timeline providing, I guess, a high-level snapshot of how this work will roll out. That's provided as an attachment. Hopefully it's clear in your agenda packs, but it provides that time frame between now and October when we hope to have a strategy adopted, just for information. We'll obviously add in the new workshop talked about today, but otherwise we'll keep producing that and update it as required. If it's not clear in your handout, I know sometimes the system makes it blurry, it's okay? We can email it around separately. Okay.
Just with the Mātauranga Māori,
Yeah.
Chair, I think we should have representation from Matahiwi Marae at the same time as well.
Thank you.
Because they are in the locale of the coast. So initially, we always were including PSGs, but of course, this is a marae and a hapu that will take, and that's been discussed with them, is that, or are you asking us to actually go out to them and include them into the discussions?
I think that's,
I know I'm not allowed to talk, but I think there should be a representative from Matahiwi here because, as you say, it's a coastal marae. And I think it's been mentioned to Levi Walford, but nothing formal, so somebody needs to actually have a discussion with Matahiwi board.
Okay. Or maybe send them a letter and invite them, if it's possible.
Next I have, yeah. We have through, you go, sorry.
Oh, kia ora, sorry. So Matahiwi Marae fallen under Tamatea Pōkai Whenua, so I'll make that connection with them. Thank you.
she's a PSG.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for that. So a couple of things to note. Consultation update. So after meeting with HBRC's executive team, we've shifted the consultation on the strategy from August to September. So just a slight change. There's a real desire to separate what is quite a tricky long-term plan consultation from this. So a slight shift to provide a bit of space between those two key consultation initiatives. What else should I just pick on? I suppose noting strategy outline update from paragraph 16. You've seen this before, but just for visibility, a bit of an outline of how the strategy document will look ultimately and where the various content elements are up to. So largely it's all ready to go except for the funding component, which is our key remaining task. And the last thing I'll note, verbally anyway, is around the Saving the Cape Coast publication, which this joint committee all received a copy of, and a query about whether you'd like to make any formal response to Keith Newman and the contributors to that book as part of this joint committee.
Need to give that some thought and come back to us in a later meeting. Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that it was pretty impressive to receive that book that was compiled with so much community work and the legacy of Anne and her team. And I think it would be really brilliant if we can acknowledge that formally as a committee and maybe have them here so that we can acknowledge them in person for the outstanding work they've done for that community.
I don't see anyone disagree with that, so we can make that happen.
We'll call that as an action, Chair. Sure.
You might have to come back again, Anne.
I don't mind, I'm going to be here anyway.
Okay.
So just, can I clarify with the Chair, we should ask Keith Newman to come along and just speak to his publication. Is that what you're imagining?
Yep.
I think, some way that we can actually interact with Keith as a committee to commend the work he's done, but also if committee members have any questions that arise from that really comprehensive document he's put together, the opportunity to speak to him.
Yeah, and it is almost like a swan song for walking on water. Maybe Keith can also explain to us a little bit how the progression is now working, so we actually can get a bit of visibility for those on the joint committee who now is actually driving that work in that particular area. And
I could just add to that, so the Cape Coast Community Group and WOW are blending together, so that there'll still be a working party as such. for the coastal.
See, it's always good to know better to know the people that you have to work with, rather than having them sitting, throwing stones over the wall. You'd rather invite them into the house, Tanya Hopman, on the wall.
Oh, kia ora. Actually, my hand related to the Matahiwi discussion, but I think Tamatea Pōkai Whenua had spoken there, so that's good to hear. And really support having this opportunity for Keith to come and have a kōrero with us, because I think when people go to that effort to compile such information, we should acknowledge it and should also enable them to have some time to talk to us about it. So I think it is really important. Just wanted to support that.
Great, thank you. Okay, that's an action item that we will undertake. Any other questions for Simon on his report? If not,
Just one quick question. With having the difficulty getting tangata whenua involved, how much of a barrier has that been to making progress with this particular thing? Does it put a delay behind it or whatever?
Through the chair, so it's a really good question. I think it's not really a straightforward answer. So from my perspective, what we really want to avoid is this thing to be a surprise to anyone. So worst case scenario, right, we're on a trajectory of this, we get to a consent process and end up in some sort of adversarial outcome. So we're trying to get to a place where it's not a surprise, it's well understood, well checked and balanced as we go through, and that's what the Mātauranga Māori Workstream is all about, is to make sure we bring in that engagement, but also bring in some of those values that work we're doing. So in a broader sense, it hasn't slowed us down, but the risk is if we proceed too far ahead of that engagement, that we end up not on the same page. So I'm not sure if that's a clear answer, but that's sort of how I'm seeing it at the moment. A risk more than a hold up at this stage.
Okay, yeah, I fully understand that. I understand the difficulty. I wonder if some of our tangata whenua reps here can help us progress this further.
Okay.
Thank you, Don.
Kia ora, through you, Chair. I can answer that, and probably just backtrack a tiny little bit. So I am the environmental planner at Tamatea Pōkai Whenua. So we are currently standing up Te Mātaia, which is our environmental hub inside the trust, and we are very close to making appointments for operations inside the hub. And so I guess this strategy and our hub obviously will encompass appointing people to the various committees. I'm sitting here today, and I probably, being an environmental planner, should stay here rather than reappoint to someone else. So it is a piece of work that we do have to do to engage our whānau and our members, and I guess as I talk briefly about placing the right people in the right committees. So we're just going through that sort of piece of work at the moment.
Very, very pleasant to hear that. Thank you.
Evelyn.
Also, through the chair, we have got, with the Napier City Council, we've got a group set up there called the Manukanuku Tiwi group. They come up, which is representatives of all our 7 marae, or all our 7 hapu within the Ahuriri district. And that would be a good place to start if you want to contact with our tangata whenua, because each one has got a representative from our marae sitting on those on that committee.
Good, excellent. Good suggestion. Tanya, you've got your hand up.
It's probably still raised from previously, but I think, are we just talking about how to reach out in terms of the Mātauranga engagement?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, well, I think it's best to probably have that discussion offline with Simon, as was mentioned earlier, to try and come up with an effective strategy. It's always been challenging to engage, depending on people's capacity, but I think we should do that offline with Evelyn, myself, and so I couldn't actually hear or see the Tamatea Pōkai Whenua member there, sorry, apologies, but yeah, with the 3 PSGs to start with.
Okay, that's Diane Smith.
Kia ora, Diane.
Have you met before? Okay, good.
So I think the real question is, with the engagement that you've got coming up, whether we'll be progressed enough to still meet the timeline for August or September consultation. I think that's the question that we need to ask.
Yep. We're definitely endeavouring to do that. The colour line, it used to be green, became orange, now becomes red. And that's done for a reason, so that we know that we really need to
It's not
focus on
red
it.
yet, it's still orange.
Well, I call it red enough, you know? So, because it's urgent, and, you know, that's why we're spending time on it, discussing now, so we'll actually resolve this. And, you know, with the suggestions made today, that'll be really great.
Maybe just one point to add to the chair on that, which might give members some comfort, is we are working with Aramanu Ropiha as a contractor helping us with this work. She's been helping us to try and have those conversations, but we know how capacity constraints make that tricky to do. But in the meantime, she is compiling as a desktop piece of work, you know, what is it that mana whenua have said over the years on various consents and management plans and various other processes relevant to the coast. So if we could compile that kind of set of information that's already out there as a starting point, it means we've got something to work with and then engage further on. So it's not like nothing is being done. We're trying to sort of work with the capacity constraints and not just sort of giving up, right? So for some comfort, there is work being done.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? You okay?
Oh, no, I was going to say, happy to move, and I'll just speak to the motion.
That'd be great, yeah.
Yep.
Have we got a seconder? Seconder. You can speak.
Brilliant. Through you, Mr. Chair, just thank you, Simon, for including the timeline. It's brilliant and everything I hoped it would be. Now, it's neat to be able to see that big picture and to break it down into reasonable chunks around what we're going to do. Great to have that discussion around Mataranga Māori, and really cool to see that strategy outline update as well, to see where the work is coming from. So thank you. Great update this time.
Excellent, good, thank you. Those in favour of receiving the Project Manager's March 2024 update staff report, all in favour say aye. Aye. Against, ayes have it. Thank you very much, Simon. Okay, then we go to the next item, item 6, Communication and Engagement Plan Update. No, that will be you again, Simon?
Thank you, Chair. We have Rebecca Ashcroft online as well, who's supporting us with this work from Frank Engagement. Mindful of time, can I suggest we take this one as read? It's really just sort of a usual update, and perhaps go straight to questions. We're due out here by 12, I think, so.
No questions? Okay. On that note, have I got a move? Zan, thank you very much. Have I got a seconder? Keith, those in favour say aye.
Jeff, can I just speak briefly?
Yes,
to the
you
motion,
can, of
please? I just thought it would be worthwhile to sort of contextualise this consultation. So this is a really busy space. It's a very busy year. The challenge here is to follow on. So this consultation will follow on from all of the council's long-term planning consultations, which occupy the first half of this year. But also from a regional council point of view, we have 3, if not 4 reviews coming out, and I think at least 3 of those, or 2, if not 3 of those, are going to be in the first half of the year. So for the public and for the council, this is going to be tremendously busy. Also, what happens as a result of a consultation on this strategy also has to be looked at in the context of all of the other activities. So this fantastic piece of work will go to its fruition of agreeing a strategy for consultation with a bunch of financial and operational consequences, assuming a successful outcome of the consultation. We need to understand that the product of this still has to be funded, prioritised and delivered. So this is a great process that will go to its fulfilment, but that process essentially finishes with the LTP consultation, and then the community and councils have to balance the costs and the timing of the work that we expect will eventually flow. And I just wanted to just make sure that people are clear on that.
Thank you. It is daunting, for sure.
There's a lot of it,
Yeah, that's
but
right.
this is a great process
Yeah, okay.
with a great product.
And we hope that we actually can connect with the community. But, you know, we've struggled in the past. We'll see. Okay, we've got a mover and a seconder. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it. When we go to item number 7, update on governance intentions for natural hazard related policy and reforms. Chris?
Yeah, so Gavin and Simon put this together. Really, we'll take it as read. We've got Gavin here. There's a lot going on in terms of the new government. We're still waiting for lots of information. So we've put the best information we can up, and I think the team is happy to answer any questions. Gavin, we might just ask you to come up to the front.
Some of your copy and paste included some other policy that wasn't actually related to this, and actually started to get into those woods rather than what I should be reading.
It's my trick to test whether you'd read that. Can I just add that since this paper did go to print last week, the government has introduced the fast track approvals bill, and that's going to be referred to us through a select committee process. The select committee has invited public submissions on that until the 19th of April.
Okay.
So that's paragraph 25, 26. Yep.
Councillor Brown.
Thank you, through the chair. So the paper talks about whether or not we might like to put a submission into that bill. I was wondering if the staff could talk about if there's any specific angle that this committee might take related to our work. It feels quite a generic process rather than one that's tied to this committee.
I would say that the three respective councils certainly have their regular consent authority hats and interests in the mix here for RMA related things. But for this committee, in thinking about some of the projects that we could be looking at over the short, medium, long term, I would say that there's a potential opportunity for fast tracking the various approvals, whether it be RMA, freshwater fisheries, reserves, these various things in the mix. Any one of those could be a bit of a, under current legislation, could be quite a bit of a hurdle to overcome, and maybe even a very expensive one, to Councillor Harding's earlier comment. So yeah, I would say that the bill in its current form certainly should be looked at through an opportunity presenting kind of lens as well. The details of that we haven't yet worked through. As I say, it was just introduced last week, and we certainly as staff we haven't poured through however many pages the bill is.
Okay. Tanya, you've got your hand up. Is that still from previous or related to this paper?
No, related to this paper. Thank you. Thank you, Gavin. I think it's probably a little bit premature for me to raise it, but I wanted to raise that exact possibility that Gavin was alluding to of whether the fast track approvals bill will could be an avenue for expediting some of the mitigation work that's contemplated in the strategy. And just one thing I wanted to put out there, and I hope you can hear me all right because someone's now decided to mow their lawn behind me, but was the process that we've taken to date has been incredibly inclusive of our communities, and we've staged it and informed them that there's more discussions to be had, particularly around when we get to the point of consenting. I feel that the bill provides an opportunity to expedite things, but at a cost to community and public input, because the bill has some limited opportunities for that to happen. And what that would signal to our community about when we get to the sharp, pointy end of this process, if we go down the track of trying to fast track some or all of our mitigation. So I just want to put that out there, that that's a concern from my perspective, is the process that we were committed to, which is being fully inclusive, and then potentially in the future, if we use this, that we're then sidelining that public input potentially.
Yeah, thank you very much, and we're well aware of that. And one of the comments that Elwyn made previous, we understand. We need to bring the community along. And that community need to have the ability to have input meaningfully, but also being heard as well, and that needs to be acted upon. And I think that's similar with our process of actually engaging with community when we go back to the community. We ought to listen to them and have that input. And we're not always that great at it, I must admit. I'm the first one to put my hand up for that. Okay, Simon.
Just one thing to add to that, Chair. I think the third element is worth thinking about is that this may be used by others to fast-track approvals for new assets and at-risk areas potentially, right? So there's a risk too that we end up with a bigger problem if things shortcut the usual, considerations. So that it's a tricky one for this committee to navigate for all the reasons that Gavin and Tanya and I have mentioned. Personal view is that there's still merit to be involved and actually to speak to that kind of nuanced discussion around fast tracking and the ups and downs of that. And if the committee was of mind to do that, we have a process of used before to prepare submissions and draft and circulate for feedback. We could likely do that, I imagine. But I'll leave that for any direction you might have on that topic.
Good.
Can I just make another comment, Mr. Chair? Sorry.
Yes, go ahead, please.
I wonder, the submissions to the fast track approvals bill, I think, would be worth making to maybe highlight our strategy and the length of time that we've taken and the community input that we've taken on board to be producing it, and how will those things be dealt with? Because in the fast track approvals bill, they set out a list of priorities. Development is at the top, policies and plans are largely at the bottom, and I suspect a strategy like this might be next to nowhere. Is that right, Gavin?
He's thinking.
Thinking of those documented priorities, I don't think it's even featured in there explicitly.
No.
At least. Yeah.
No. So maybe part of a submission on the bill could be acknowledging that there have been massive investments and commitments made by community and council and iwi into developing strategies like this that should be included as, in the list of considerations. So that's the first thing on the approvals bill. But secondly, whether we should be writing to the sacred three ministers, infrastructure, development, and there's one other, who basically make all the decisions under this new act when it comes into force, highlighting the strategy and highlighting the work that we've done, just so that, because what I'm concerned about is we won't know, and we probably won't get any input or very limited input into the projects that are fast-tracked, that are included in that first schedule of the bill, and the ones that come forward later. So I wonder if we should be doing something to make our strategy and the work that we've done known to those ministers. I don't know, and councils will have a better idea, whether you think there are any projects that are likely to have been or likely to be put forward to ministers from private developers or whatever along our coastline that is going to potentially impact our strategy. Does anyone know about those? Because if we're concerned about any of those, we should definitely be making our presence felt to the ministers, because it's not a very transparent process as to how projects get put on that fast track list. So, yeah, I just wanted to raise that. Are there any, so, we should make submissions we should make ourselves known to those three ministers in terms of our work. And then are there any projects that we could see might actually try and be approved through this bill, and actually been given priority in that first schedule? I think it is. I'm not aware of any, but maybe councillors are.
No, we're not. And staff have been taking notes while you were speaking. So, Chris, you want to respond?
So I'm reading the discussion as an instruction to prepare a submission.
Yeah.
To share that around the table from feedback. And there's multiple components. Obviously, the fact that we've been working on this strategy, the opportunities that may present this strategy, plus recognising that there may be incompatibilities with some fast-track projects and our strategy as a general high level. So I think we'll take that on board and work through you, Chair, to develop that up.
Okay. And councils with an S will, I would suspect, make submissions. So it's part of, I would say. Owen?
I was going to say, it's in the next paper, I think, but page 28.
Can we do, yeah.
Tier Wanga representatives are still keen to pursue some level of protection of the section of coast adjacent to the Tier Wanga Lagoon. I mean, that's happening outside of coastal hazards. So I think there is benefit in making the coastal hazard strategy known.
Yep.
Okay, good. Any other comments? If not, time is moving on. I would like to receive a mover for this particular paper. Councillor Brown, Councillor Price.
We both did.
Well, one, yeah. We've had it before that it happened. Nobody said anything. Thank you very much for pointing that out. That's okay.
Tanya and Sandra here.
Yeah, Councillor Dixon as a seconder. You want to would you like to speak?
Oh, just briefly, I think we've had a good discussion around that direction of that submission. I think it's good that we submit as a committee. I think it highlights the work that we've done, and for the new ministers who may not be aware of the length of work that it's taken in all of our submissions, I think it's good for that sort of education piece. And for us to have that sort of flavour of proceed with caution, because we've done a lot of trust building with our communities, and this has the potential to undermine that trust. So,
good, thank you. Any others? If not, I'll put it. All those in favour, say aye. Aye. Against? Ayes have it. Thank you. Then we go to item 8, which is current coastal projects update. Is that you, Chris?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So again, we'll take that as read. This is just our regular update of where various projects are at for visibility of what's happening. We've got a number of staff here from the various councils who are able to answer any questions you may have.
No questions? Great.
Yeah, I'm just interested in point 12 there. The recovery plan, consideration of a proposed construction of a revetment to repair damage to the Marae-Traitra River channel.
Yep, so I think it's been recognised in the plan, but it's unfunded as far as I'm aware. So that's through the Regional Recovery Agency putting that comprehensive plan together.
I think
yep.
Picked up in point 15. The follow-up meeting with the people from Te Wai's advising that there is no funding money available from the Regional Flood Recovery Plan. So that defaults then if there's something going to happen that the community wants to happen before the strategy's in place and into an implementation plan, that will have to come through by default the normal LTP process.
Yes.
And under the terms of the memorandum of understanding, that there would need to be consultation with Hawke's Bay Regional Council as to what its status would be post adoption of the strategy and the EP amendment of the Regional Council. Just while I've got the floor, I just suggest to you that there has been some minor work done.
Maybe come to the front, because we've got Tanya, you've still got your hand up. Is that a question that you'll pose in a minute?
Yes.
Okay, we'll get Mark first and then we'll come to you.
Just to advise the committee that some minor work was done out there to shore up the access to what we colloquially call the surface car park. And because that had been scoured out a little bit by the Cyclone Gabrielle. So that's been filled up and that'll provide at least some minor protection that currently doesn't exist or hadn't existed for overtopping into the lagoon. So, but our people are still working with the community out there as to what they want to do and how that would be funded.
So there's point 12, revetment to repair damage to the river channel and a wall in front of the Te Wanga car park. Are they the same thing or separate?
I'm not 100% sure of the details there. What I do know is our staff are talking to about different options and opportunities. So I would have to consult with Graham Hanson. He will be all over the detail of that. I'm not over that detail.
Perhaps we might just send out some more detail to that, to
Yeah.
answer that question after the meeting.
That'd be great. That'd be much appreciated. Thank you. Tanya?
I'll be quick question to Chris. Chris, with the proposed flood mitigation works post-cyclone, the ones that are subject to the order in council, those I'm thinking in particular of those ones around Whirinaki. Is there any issue there in our role with this coastal hazards with long stop banks going up to protect from flood mitigation from the river? And maybe at the same time having coastal inundation over time. It might be absolutely nothing, but I just thought I'd ask the question.
So to respond to that, the teams are looking at the future of coastal inundation as part of those schemes. So, for example, at the Tangoio beach development, that there was a significant risk around coastal inundation. So, so it is being looking at, but the primary focus is on the flood resilience. But part of the conversation, and indeed part of the business case process, is the ongoing resilience of those areas.
Yeah, thank you. Just I'm conscious of flood mitigation protecting residents from the river.
Yep.
And having stop banks at their backs or at their fronts will be the sea. So that's all I just wanted to question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion, questions? If not, I'll put the motion that we accept this report. All those in favour, oh, sorry, I need a mover and a seconder. Is always handy. Zan and Elwyn. All those in favour say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Against? Ayes have it. Then we go to our last item on the agenda, which is follow-up actions update. Is that you, Simon?
To you, Chair. I mean, take it as read, all items completed bar the last one, which is an infographic. But that is actually also complete, just pending a final review. So you plan to put that on the website. So shorthand version is all actions either on track or completed.
Okay, good. On that note, who would like to move this item? Keith, and thank you, Malcolm. Okay, those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it. Well, that concludes the end of our meeting. And once again, thank you very much. We've done it very, very quick, although we're still 15 minutes overboard. But let's close the meeting proper, and then we can go and have lunch. Mark, would you like to close us in karakia, please?
Kia tātou katoa, kia te whai, o tō tātou ariki I hukarati, me te ara hati o te atua, me te whiwhi nā tahitanga ki te waru tapu aki aki.
Amen. Thank you.